welcome to another exciting episode of Riding Through the Unknown. I'm your host, Michael, and I am super excited to be bringing you tonight's episode. Full transparency, this is someone I've been wanting to have on the show and just finally been able to talk with him. And because he's such a heavy hitter, I was being the shy one and saying, nah, I'm not sure he'll take my call, but I reached out and we found topics. So I am going to allow Brian to introduce himself and share what he does.
It's an honor, Michael. I always get so excited being the first time on any show. So this is as much a treat for me, hopefully, as it is for you. I kind of I'm a relative newcomer to the secret space program super soldier community, if you will, in so many ways. Okay, I have a community organizing background, and I used to organize physicians to do medical advocacy to fight for patient care. But so I'm bringing those organizing skills to what some of us would term the full disclosure now movement. And you, Michael, have had already on your show so many of the great lights, the people who need to shine their testimony out there for the world, and then I've had the pleasure and honor of working with some of them. And the reason why we call it the full disclosure now movement is because a lot of people are interested in disclosure of ETs and laser beams, the Buck Rogers stuff. But there's the full part. There's the stuff that, I don't want to get your channel banned for even mentioning, right? But, the abuse of little people and, satanic rituals and stuff like that. And it all goes together, unfortunately, and that's where a lot of people, they want to hear about the spaceships, but they don't want to hear about little kids being abused to give them psychic training to teach them how to maybe fly those spaceships, for example, or to open up time tunnels to then mess with the time stream. And so, funny enough, part of how I got into the community was I had a Facebook account going back years and years with my first girlfriends and my high school friends and my college buddies and all those people. And when a certain medical catastrophe happened around the world, I was warning people, don't roll up your sleeves, don't roll up your sleeves. And I had that account banned. And it broke my heart. It really depressed me, actually, Michael, because what happens when you lose contact with thousands of people, and hundreds of them are direct face-to-face contacts of yours from decades, right? Or 15 years maybe. But when I restarted it, I got involved into two communities with my new account. One was the sword making community or sword collecting community. So you'll see a sword on my wall. And then the other was yeah, it's a katana. Yeah, under my AR. I'm in Nevada. This is all legal. I fled California where you can't have fun anymore. And so got to discover this community, a very rich and vibrant community, and realize, holy cow, these people are telling the truth. Part of it started with the Tony Rodriguez interview with the Journey to Truth guys and their work. Tyler and Koala, they're great people and friends. They're going to be at our Timeline of Disclosure conference, and I'm going to go as an attendee to the Rebels of Disclosure conference in May for them in Grafton, Illinois, which will be amazing. And I went to the Contact in the Desert conference last summer or spring, it was around that area time, and getting to meet these people in person. And with my community organizing background, getting to speak in person with people and hear their testimonies, get to speak with them separately in depth. It's people aren't making up BS on the spot they can go on for hours about their testimonies without missing a beat. You can come back to them days, months, weeks, years later. Hey, Carr, it's Nigel, a friend in the UK. He's a part of he's a benevolent reptilian incarnated starseed here in human form, as so many of us are. May not reptilian per se, but star seeds, if you will, per the Dolores Cannon tradition. But I realized, having met the people, vetting it's real, being so inspired, being around the energy, seeing that now is a time when people can come out to come out to play, light warriors, but to really shine a light on what's going on, and that we ourselves have probably suspected has been hiding or hidden from us in the background all our lives, and realizing, wow, we need to like yourself, get the word out about this. And then off of that, through being in the SSP community, I didn't want to be like a groupie, if you will. How can I contribute? And I knew that James Rink of supersoldiertalk.com was going to organize, or wanted to organize, a trip to Montauk for the 80th anniversary of the Philadelphia experiment. And apparently, the Montauk Project, the east end of Long Island, New York, over there, is where the USS Eldridge apparently appeared briefly, among jumping other places from Philadelphia, Virginia. I guess part of that was Montauk. And we wanted it to be there for the 80th anniversary of that time rip. And with the people that we assembled, James and I and others, and Arkheim, Jessica the Cryptid Huntress, Dark Hour Paranormal Michael, who just did an amazing documentary called The Lost Souls of Montauk. Chastity Campbell, we did energy healing work there on the ley line there at Camp Hero. And that's really fired me up to kind of keep the work going, because our analysis, for so many of us, thank you, John, is that we rightfully have a Star Trek future yesterday. It's been stolen from us. And the only way we're going to get that is if we have the truth. As long as we down here on Earth, on the surface, are arguing whether or not ETs exist, much less whether they're intelligent, much less whether they're here, much less negative influences in our government, rogue elements cutting deals with negatively oriented ETs to sell us out, going back to the 1930s and perhaps earlier. Yeah, I'd say that deserves a front page news.
I agree, and I find it interesting that you pointed out the Philadelphia experiment with Montauk, because I was always getting told I was getting them confused, because I would always say Montauk and I'd always say the Philadelphia experiment, and they go, no, that's a different. And so for you to say that, it's like another like validation for me of, yeah, I have a memory of something that really did happen.
Let me help tie it together, if I may, Michael. Is there any way I could present my screen?
You should be able to share screen.
Yes.
There it
Okay,
is.
so I'm going to try
Here we go.
sharing this screen. And then just for our viewers here in the audience, we've got, and this may help you, okay, as well, for like, why do some people link the Montauk Project and the Philadelphia experiment together, okay, is because here, Long Island of New York State, you've got Brookhaven National Laboratories. And what happened is with the Philadelphia experiment first, what it looks like is they took Tesla technology, right? Because Tesla died right around then. They took his files, and they say they wanted to achieve at first radar invisibility. And so they took the USS Eldridge, a destroyer class US naval ship, and they stuck a Tesla generator at each end, front, out, aft, and stern, or whatever, of the ship. Okay. And they lit up those Tesla generators. And not only did they achieve radar invisibility, they actually warped through time and space. Hi, Sarah. Thank you for joining us. And when they warp through time and space, that's where they have pictures of the sailors, some of them getting fused into the ship. Okay. And I'm going to pull up some of the photos of them that I've been told by people, yes, these are actually, that's real. This one is a real photo of a sailor fused into the ship. And what happened is when they were, and then here's the movie based off the real life. This is supposed to be a real photo again of a sailor fused into the deck of the ship there. Okay. Or I'm not sure if that one is real. That one's supposed to be real right here. Okay. And what happened is they saw that, okay, we obviously not only achieved radar invisibility, it looks like we ripped a hole through time and space. There's something here. They took a lot of this research over to the Brookhaven National Labs. Okay, so let's go to Google Earth, Brookhaven National Laboratory, Rochester Street, up to New York. Okay, they took this research there initially from the Philadelphia experiment and decided to start tinkering around here. And apparently they incorporated into their research something called the Montauk trip chair. And this was supposed to be a like pilot chair from a downed UFO from might have been one of the Roswell crash sites. Apparently there were like 3. Hi, Tracy. Thank you for being here. And to basically take these kids who had psychic gifts that they were weeding out and they were strapping them in the chair. They were doing horribly some weird sexual, just bad things to these kids to get them to open up portals and doorways to other places. Because this chair would give these children, not adults, they found it didn't work with adults, only kids, the ability to materialize certain things, including portals. And what apparently happened is word got out that atrocities were happening involving little kids. This is what I'm piecing together. Okay, so if I'm wrong out there, people don't crucify me. This is what I've kind of pieced together. Okay, they then moved operations from Brookhaven National Laboratory out here to Camp Hero, a then abandoned Army base in Montauk Point, New York, which at that point in like the 50s and 60s and 70s was like a sleepy fishing village, okay, with like the lighthouse way out here on the point. It's like an iconic lighthouse. And then you've got the iconic Sage radar tower here on the Camp Hero Army base. Let me see if I could locate that for everybody.
Well, while you're looking for that, I noticed it was interesting the lab that they moved from looked like a Stargate amongst all these square buildings or rectangular buildings. It was like
surprise, surprise, surprise. Yeah. Color me like, oh, like, gee, imagine that. That's so strange. How could that be? Which building, Michael?
the one you got the mouse on right there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a cyclotron. So it's like they're doing particle energy smashing, particle smashing. And then if you're a video game fan, there's a game called like Out of This World, and it's about a lab like this, like Fermi, where they're smashing particles, and you get the protagonist gets zapped to an alien world, and it's a great game, by the way.
And also, I don't know if it's just because we're looking at it from above, but it looks like the center is higher than the rest of it. Like the ground is being pushed outward.
I wish I could tilt map it and elevate it. And so look at this. You see right here the sidewalk leading. It almost looks like it's leading down. So maybe instead of up, it might be down because of these stairs. From the shadow, this would indicate a downward slant.
Right, but it's interesting how the illusion of the perspection, it's like you can go, yeah, I'm looking down, but it looks like pushing out at the same time.
This is labeled as National Synchrotron Light Source 2, if anyone was wondering out there. Yeah, and so it's actually a very natural correlation to put the Philadelphia experiment and the Montauk Project together, because one led to the other. and that's why.
Now, I'm curious with your knowledge of Montauk. Yeah, now I'm getting tongue tied. I'm wondering, did they just phase out of the dimension, or did they really end up going to another point in time, and then for somehow something happened that triggered them to come back? Like, was there a time delay on there that they were only supposed to be gone so long?
Great question, Michael. So Arkheim breaks it up into Montauk phases 1, 2, and 3. And in phase 1, it's kind of like they're just getting kids strapped in this chair, throwing them through portals, seeing what works, what doesn't work, fine tuning it. They've got all this like with like Preston Nichols, who was like an evil pedo bastard, strapping kids into the chair and hitting them with all sorts of electronic signals and frequencies, while torturing the other kids at the same time to then open up portals. Sometimes kids might literally get lost in space, from what I hear, or maybe like you see in the TV show on Netflix on Stranger Things. Originally, that was going to be called Montauk Project. And imagine, a kid's trapped in the chair. They open up a portal. You're one of these expendable kids, maybe because you don't have the psychic gifts that the other kids do. They send you through, okay, and maybe you come back and make it through or not. Maybe the kid can keep the portal open in time long enough for you to do whatever it is on the other side, explore and come back. Maybe not. Maybe where they sent you is so bad and terrible that there's nothing of you to come back. But then they hit Montauk 2.0, pardon me, where, now they're kind of fine tuning it where they can like send people through a portal back in time here on Earth to say, see the Gettysburg Address. I don't know if that's how Andrew Basiago got to see it, and there's photographic evidence of him being there as a child. And again, what do you know? They're using a kid. Like, why are they using kids? So that's why, because many of them were psychically gifted and were compatible with this ET technology for perhaps that reason. And then the other thing is, once they knew how to do the time travel, Jimmy Payne, of course, is talking about a lot of this and testifying to this. They're now figuring out, well, if we can go back in time, or we can branch off another timeline by changing it, by, killing off Hitler's grandparents before Hitler is born to change off the timeline, then it seems like what they're doing is they now created a split off timeline. At least that's how I perceive it. Okay. But then and talking to people in these programs, I believe James and Arkheim will say this, timelines are sentient. They don't like necessarily being messed with, or you can only mess with them to a certain extent. They want to have their individuality and their own beingness, if you will.
Right. And when I was talking with Angie Dollar, she thought it was interesting that most of the SSP or, people in the programs go, yes, I have these aspects over here, and that's all they think about. I was talking to her about and asking her what happens to the people in those timelines. Like, if we get pulled out of that timeline and it ceases to exist, what happens to all the other people? Are they, erased because we left, or do they keep going? Do the
I would argue
keep going? And she was like, that's an interesting question.
I would argue they keep going and there's split offs and it still exists. Yeah, it's what I would think, because in Arkheim, he's talked about this. It's like one of their time travel things, it was like Project Ibis, or this might have been the name. This is when the bad guys were messing with their timeline, and so it switches essentially what they want to do. It switches on a negative timeline where the dark forces win. Okay, and so in one of them, he remembers a mission where they literally implanted their time soldiers, what they call them, like on that TV show like Loki. Now, back in time in like Renaissance Italy, to mess with like a Leonardo / Tesla da Vinci type of character, and basically erase him from the time stream. And that's what I suspect they did with Tartaria, and like the World's Fairs and the Mud Flood and similar things, is they used their time travel to the best of their ability to mess it up. And then what happened, how it translated or transitioned rather from Montauk 2 to 3.0 was one of the kids they strapped into the chair apparently said, you know what? I'm strapped in this chair and they're telling me I got to summon this or open this or do that, materialize this, but I can materialize and do whatever I want. He like summoned what they called Junior. It was like either like a psychic Sasquatch or a real life Sasquatch, an energy Sasquatch, like from the movie The Forbidden Planet. And that energy Sasquatch went berserk and tore up Camp Hero Army base, but only physically harming and attacking the perpetrators, the wrongdoers, if you will, not harming the kids at all. And what that did is apparently it freed up for some time that base for those young time soldiers to try to run a series of missions to reverse the damage and do good. And then eventually they did some stuff that they eventually got swarmed and raided. And then apparently, I believe, according to James, they may, hey, Midwest, hey, Garrel, they may have relocated the Montauk Project to New Orleans, which to me would make perfect sense. And then not only they call it the Montauk Project, but apparently they were also operating under the Presidio. And then now there's all that stuff about Michael Aquino and all that satanic stuff involving children. What do you know? Full disclosure now, people.
I find it interesting. You say they're looking at or may have moved to New Orleans when that's a city that they can't even keep it above water when natural disasters come through. So it seems like that's a backwards place to put a facility with the energy and, trying to open this stuff up, because with the weather wars going on, it seems like an easy target.
Well, think about it like this. If they're using an underground base and it's underwater, what do they care if you flood it necessarily? That's one thing. Two is, who knows what aspects of the project they move there or how much resources. And then do they care about our taxpayer money? I don't think so, right? It doesn't feel like it, rather. It doesn't seem like it. And then the last part is, or another facet of that is New Orleans would seem like one of those places where a lot of people tend to disappear and no one's going to notice. You can pick up a lot of, and that's because that was part of their MO with the Montauk Project. Is I've heard numbers of anywhere from 10,000 to 15,000 to up to 300,000. I know that's a crazy high number, people, of victims, the unsung just victims of these projects. And so, and what they would do apparently as part of their MO was to drive around in the inner city, drive from Montauk, Long Island into, say, the inner ghetto cities of New York City area, pick up people and say, hey, you want some booze? You want a good time? You want to make some money? Hop on the van. And, it's sayonara, baby.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate and scary, but at the same time, it does explain, and I wonder if they're the ones operating in the national forests as well, where you have the national parks, where the only strange thing about it, though, is somebody could be 100 yards from somebody, which, that's a football field length, but that's still in sight. That's not like somebody is out of sight, but you could be looking at the person and they disappear. And so I can't help wondering, are there portals there that are opened and closed for them to grab somebody without being seen? And that's how they're getting away with it, is they're waiting on the other side of the portal to grab and go. And they fine-tuned it to where you don't even see what's on the other side of the portal.
I see. So I see three things. I see all of it happening. And that falls in I kind of break it down into three general categories. One would be like a a dark underground military operation using, as guys pointing out, cloaking with holographic technology, and now with Project Bluebeam. Like even now, right here in our lifetime, right in front of us, they're doing it to do like Pokemon commercials, on like giant like building size billboards flying in the sky. But why couldn't they then cloak a trap door or a hatch somewhere on the side of a mountain? Why not? So, and kidnap people. That would be number one, right? And per David Polides and the Missing 411, they've got people mapping the overlays of national forests and underground tunnels, cavern systems, and then the underground military bases is like purported by people like Phil Schneider. Okay. And then like national parks and like, what do you know? And missing people. And it's like a 90% correlation, it looks like. Right.
Right.
And yeah. And then, so that would be one thing. Another thing would be natural portals. So our friend Jessica, the cryptid huntress, she has a team, and they've been to a place called the Meadow, and they won't tell people where it is because it's so dangerous. That this is a place where like it gets foggy, and apparently using like infrared cameras, they detect what looks like
A
just an
cube.
invisible object, but it's a cube. And they sent two of their team members into that cube, and now one of them is like maybe suffering bad health effects. Okay, that might be a natural portal that, for whatever reason, the Earth, the Sun, the stars align in a certain way, magnetics, the moon, tides, it opens up that thing, and then maybe it. Jessica says, don't. If you ever see a portal like that, don't go walk into it. Like you could disappear. It might, like the Montauk Project, might close and not come back. Okay, and then the third one would be there's Sasquatch, who, being interdimensional beings, and then perhaps other ETs, they can phase in and out. Who's to say they can't phase in, take you, phase you out? And then a fourth version of that, would be fairy people, and I used to think, fairies, that's crazy. It's Tinkerbell, but now I'm 48 and it's a grown, I like to think, not insane, pretty mature, rational, intelligent person. Yeah, I believe it. That's quite possible. It's all starting to line up. This all exists. There's a reason why people have talked for thousands of years of the little people and Tinkerbell flying around with wings. And now, if it's to believe, there's even video footage of what looks like to be these beings captured on people's doorbell cameras and everything.
Right. And I kind of wonder too if another thing would be is because this element that's doing this is pretty much attached to the industrial military complex and are feeding off of the war mongering and everything. If they're making it look like to where a lot of people are going to, start talking about, well, it's the inner earth are taking the kids and wanting to start a war with inner earth. And at what point, I don't know if you're one of those that, believes there's an inner earth or hollow earth full of races and everything, but I can't help wondering though, they're hearing what we're hearing. And at what point are they going to come up and say, look, you're not going to blame us. We're not doing this. And, reveal themselves and say, enough is enough and help us turn the tide versus, starting that war. And then they're like, wait, why are you attacking us? We didn't do anything. It's too late.
So that's a really great kind of what I call a who's who in the zoo question, and what do they want and why. And in my opinion, so yes, there are inner civilizations. It's not a total hollow earth. I think it's more like a Swiss cheese earth with certain voids and spaces where you can have life, certainly. And their perspective, hey Jessica, their perspective, we are just talking about you.
Yeah.
In the show. Yeah. And but would they're not so concerned that we're up here pointing the finger, blaming them, and that's a common tactic that the Satanists do and the wrongdoers do, is they blame the innocent for exactly the bad things like child kidnapping, trafficking on others that they themselves do. Okay, I don't think that that's their concern. Their concern is what we're doing to the earth. It affects them down there, like toxic, nasty stuff. And I live up here and I'm a consumer and I'm an investor. So like, like that hurts, but we're living this 3D Mad Max world. We've had Star Trek clean energy technology denied to us. We have these deep state factions that are total rogue elements who've undermined our constitutional republic democracy, as it were. It's supposed to be. They're taking that money and they're spending it to attack and harm us, waging silent weapons and silent warfare. And then, so what did the inner earthers, like, for example, what did they care about? They care about us throwing off our shackles and waking up and evolving spiritually so that we can then not only deserve spiritual gifts that we're already receiving now, but the technological gifts as well. Because if you got a society where people just jack someone for their car, joyride and crash it, run it off the hillside, and then nobody does nothing about it, that's literally what happened in San Francisco, right? Literally, and they did nothing about it. Like, no, like the cars like tumbling down the hill is on news, and like those people got released. It's like, okay, like I guess it's cool. Like, would you want to give those people UFOs that they could fly at light speed to just like warp around, crash into anywhere, anything with laser beams? Probably not.
Well, and even a step further is, the UFOs have the abilities to go into space, and it's like, would we want that to go into space and be like somebody meet them and go, so this is what's on that planet now?
So this is apparently a great concern among the ETs and whatever Federation formats they are in, is, oh no, there goes the neighborhood, honey. The barbarians have gotten past the gate. And, my whole thing on that is I'm not a big fan of this whole prime directive hands-off talk. I think that kind of like went out the window, when you talk about thousands of years of like dark force, ET, satanic, like indoctrination, assassination, secret societies. Like, this isn't exactly like an untouched, pristine environment that you don't want to mess up because the civilization is so like untouched and unfettered. This ain't that, folks. The only thing I could see is that apparently, and this is kind of like more of the Dolores Cannon, Edgar Casey type teachings, is they said, okay, the best way for us to change the situation and deal with it karmically is to then take our people and incarnate them on Earth. And that's where I'm coming from. And I think the time is like the Hopi prophecies, like we're the people that we prophesied. That time is now. And there's a lot of indicators out there of these forces in motion, both good and bad, with this, particularly the bad on the wane, and the good guys are starting to appear.
Yeah.
Whether it's us, people to the rescue or whatnot.
I'm kind of curious a little bit to see your opinion of an idea of, because like you were saying, Montauk 3, where we, and then when I say we, I mean people in the programs, started to take their power back and say, hey, we can do this and we're not going to follow your program anymore. So, quote unquote, broke it. Where did that come from? Could that be like the inner earth saying, hey, you guys are advanced, you're, being manipulated. They're messing with the timeline. We are going to mess and put an end to that, and saying, can we wake up their element? And then we are getting our sovereign identities back and saying, hey, thank you for freeing us. Yes, we'll take the fight to them, so to speak.
Yes, as I'd see that there's a mix of all of that, where you've got like the ACIO with Jessica Ariel Morocco and Peter the Insider reporting on one group called the MERG. Wait, Iron Bear's asking, I believe the Earth is bigger than what they're telling us? I mean, Iron Bear, I think from the standpoint that there's like inner Earth stuff, but from the standpoint of like, I've done a lot of air travel and I've done enough flying around and like from the US to Australia and Asia. And so, and then with time zones. So I'm definitely like a round earther, just like I believe most of the planets and the stars out there are, what do you know, they're spherical and round. But from the perspective of Antarctica and certain regions and inner Earth areas that are totally untouched or that they don't tell us about, I think it's bigger in that way. But at the same time, like, there's still like, 24 hours in a day with our 24-hour time zones. But back to what you were asking, Michael, these you've got the MERG. I don't know what it stands for, but it's like Monarch something. It's like umbrella. It's like a refugee group. So these are super soldiers who, as children, were indoctrinated into these groups, put through horrible things, made to do horrible things, and then by hook or by crook, good fortune and grace of God, they were able to escape, make it away, and then now they're banding together to come back and do something for the good of humanity and the universe, right? Then there's maybe like I understand there's like something called the Library of Porthologos, and this is like maybe like one of these ancient places of learning under the Mediterranean Sea, where there's like a type of like Akashic record set up, and there's like maybe higher level technology where we could get to view back to the days of Lemuria and Atlantis and earliest days of this planet and whatnot, and learn from that wisdom. I think that um, keepers of knowledge are going to be emerging more and more, and so it's almost like we here on this planet growing up and awakening, whether or not we're in any of these programs, we're having awakenings at whatever level. For people who are in these programs, as they get older, hey Talibu, their programming is probably breaking down from what they got programmed and indoctrinated with as children. As they become mature, sentient, free, uh, freedom of action adults, sovereign adults, they can break free of that programming and decide, hey, I want to do my own shows and expose this and organize and rally, everybody. And then they're going to be the ETs on the positive side who, okay, they were like, hey, this is what we've been waiting for. Finally some humans that we can contact and are resonating at a high enough frequency that they're going to understand the spiritual lessons, and they're going to have the right reasoning. They're not trying to get to us so that they can get our med beds and they can run, armies to take over the world, right? Negative, service to self agenda. This is more service to other folks, right? Who want to help each other when a flood or an earthquake strikes. Hey,
And
Carol.
I have to wonder too, as you mentioned like med beds, because that's been thrown around and saying they're coming, they're here, and that we have organizations that are like breaking into the tunnels underground and they're being retaken. I'm wondering if, and I don't mean to take military terms lightly, but like the med beds that they're talking about were repatriated, that they found and said, you're no longer having access. We're taking these, we're going to give them to the people. Or are the med beds that are coming being channeled to people from the star beings, the benevolence that are like, yes, it's time. You've reached the point. We're going to help. Here's the tech.
So what I believe is happening, my analysis, right, from my gaming chair here and the work that I do in the field and my organizational experience and, time I spend looking into this and what people tell me and what I try to remember. If I get it wrong, don't kill me. The positive ETs, instead of like just like say plopping down here maybe in my backyard and giving me a med bed, how awesome would that be? To then heal the community, right? Great. And if I'm the last in line, so be it. Amazing. I'll take that deal in a heartbeat. I don't care. Right. But no, I think it's more positive ETs would be working with any positive factions within any of our governments, especially including the US government. Okay, I like to think there are some white hats in there, okay, doing the work. And then I think that you've got these negative, up to now, historically negative groups or self-serving, domineering groups like ICC. I think Eliana Starchild particular talks about them, like International Corporate Conglomerate or Intergalactic Corporate Conglomerate, or Mars Corporation, where and Lunar Command, where maybe they've got access to this technology, but they've been hoarding it to themselves for whatever reasons. And then maybe they might have different forces saying, yes, you guys are going to share this with humanity, and others saying, like, don't follow that. You're going to keep, doing what you've been doing, serving the James Bond bad guys, and then now we're hearing chatter out here. They're coming. No, they're not. They're coming. No, they're not. So that's kind of the impression that I'm getting, is that they are out there. The technology does exist. It is being produced. Now, how and in what form it's going to reach us, the masses, Joe Sixpack, that's that I'm kind of holding my breath.
Right. And I also can't help wondering, as we, say the day of, we talk about day of reckoning, when we're going to take the planet back and we're going to reclaim our spiritual sovereignty and, our birthrights. I know in my heart, I feel like, the malevolence are going to be dealt with. No question about it. Whether they say, they're going to stay here, we're going to elevate somewhere else, or they're going to leave the planet, we'll keep the planet. That aside, I'm wondering is those people, like you're saying, the corporations who, for point of argument, we'll say are like Switzerland, never pick a side. Are they going to be in the reckoning as well, or are they going to be given the choice and saying, hey, you either do this now or you're done? Are they going to be given, sanctuary, or are they going to be told, hey, whether you took a side or not, you helped them, you're responsible?
Okay, I love your question, and I love that you said Switzerland. And in my opinion, for the record, no, that Switzerland, although they say, "Oh yeah, we're neutral," that's not true. They hoarded, and a lot of the Nazi gold stolen from their victims ended up in Switzerland in those vaults, and there was nothing neutral about that, if you will. That's party to war crimes, in my opinion. But
you look at the banking system. Switzerland is the number one. Nobody can look at a record of the bank transaction, whether you're a war criminal or not.
Right. And apparently there are reports of the CIA having an underwater base in the middle of Lake Geneva, Switzerland. And then you got CERN around in that region area of, more closer to northern France, I think. But it's all there. Absolutely. Do I think so? What my analysis is this, and this is from chatter from alternative news sites that are banned, and they have to put this is for entertainment only purposes only, folks, right? Just like anyone watching this show, take everything I'm saying, it's entertainment purposes only, folks. But what I think is those who are perpetrating crimes against humanity, especially those people at the top, I think that they're going to be the ones that can be rounded up and put on trial for the world. That's going to happen. Yep, Sarah, exactly. And with CERN and the underwater headquarters and to the Lake Geneva and all that. There you go. Wink, wink. Not judge for entertainment purposes only. But those people are going to be brought to justice, because when you've got humans already at the civilian level like us with remote viewing, now you can't hide anything. Okay, so there's that. And then if you got that white hat military paired with remote viewing capability, people, now the bad guys, how are they going to hide? And so anyone who's guilty of nasty, nasty crimes against humanity, like genocide and hurting little kids, they're going to face justice. I don't, and I think they'd prefer like a trial and then a clean execution, right? Than like them and their families being hunted down in the streets, pitchforks. That's not what I don't want that. I'm not advocating for that at all. I always in this situation say to anyone listening on the other side of the fence, hey, here's your chance for amnesty to the best you can. Come out, with every file and every name and be ready to do all that and come clean and be protected and and you're going to get clean justice and let's go from there. And then the people lower down in these groups, whether the corporations or the bad guy James Bond agencies, if you will, right, we'll see a bunch of funerals on TV, and we have been, and a lot of resignations. To our last commenter there, I think you're going to see a lot of those people. They're either going to toe the line or they're going to be brought to justice themselves. Those are like the third and fourth tiers down. The first and second, I think their days are numbered.
Right. And I wonder where your stance is on those that say, like, the tier 1s and 2s that we're talking about have really already been taken out. And they're people wearing masks or clones or actors portraying them just to go through the motions. At which point, I would say, at what point do we say the motions have gone far enough? Let's end this now and let's start the healing process. Why do we have to keep going? Because we're never going to get the masses. And I like to remind people, and again, I'm going to put out there, like you say, I'm not saying we won the war for independence, and, there are those that say we didn't. I'm not going there. What I'm talking about is the 1 to 2% of people who rose up and overthrew an empire.
So
That is where I feel like we've hit that pinnacle. Why do we still keep waiting for more and more people?
This is where I bust out a calculator. Let's say there's 8 billion people, okay? And times 0.01, 1% of them are just really bad. It's 80 million people. And then let's say each of those really bad people, 80 million, hired 10 bad henchmen under them. Now you're up to 800 million people plus the original 80, so 880 million baddies. It's a lot of people.
Right.
Now, in terms of the actors and stuff, I mean, to me, the actors for sure, that's obvious. I mean, the Joe Biden one, his earlobes are attached. Now they're not attached. He had hairy arms and an anchor tattoo. Now he's got no hair on his arms and no anchor tattoo. He looked like the Joe Biden we all knew and loved and maybe not love or vote for that grew up with, Joe Biden pushing for like NAFTA to like Joe Biden who fell out of like the Deliverance 70 years later. The kid with the banjo. No offense to that guy. I heard he had a rough one. But you know what I mean? So that's just a clear body double, right? I mean, and then my favorite body double, I want one person to argue with me on this one, is you've seen Putin, right?
Right.
Okay, Putin 2009, KGB killer Putin. To like, I'm teddy bear Putin. I want to help the world, make the world a better place. Like that, like, that what I'm talking about. Anyone looks at pre-2009 Putin to the Putin of today, obviously a different person. And his own wife left the first Putin and said, the man is not my husband. I mean, she went on, she said that. So it's like, hey, Ida, awesome. Ida's also going to be there participating at our Timeline of Disclosure conference in July in Florida there. Right. So Midwest Night Watchers is what they're talking about is tribunals going on behind the scenes. And I believe that's happening. And then that's where then people are saying, well, your entertainment purposes only website over here said they rounded up this person and brought him to justice. Hey, Donald. I love Donald. I'm also subscribing to his stuff too. These people, they're saying, oh, geez, and I'm getting a call. Let me shut that. They, 1 second. Joshua, I'm on a live show right now. I'll call you back. Okay. So, where was I at? The
tribunals and grinding.
Oh, yeah. Now, this is where I believe in some cases, not only are they using actual just human actors and body doubles and avatars with a mixture of CGI and masks and body doubles, and professional actors with also the voiceover technology, but they're also using cloning technology. And then when people say, Brian, that's crazy, cloning technology, I mean, maybe they did Dolly the sheep in the 1990s, but cloning technology of humans, come on, really? This is where I say, you know what? We know for a fact that humankind has been interacting with ETs, good and bad. And some of these negative ETs have technology and civilizations that are thousands, maybe millions of years old. We ain't dealing with like 1980s technology here, people. We're dealing with like Star Trek technology and beyond.
Right.
So can they clone people? Yes, you bet your ass they can.
What I tell people when I talk about that, Brian, is I go, do you really think since all cloning information went dark after Dolly, we didn't use it on humans? Really? Because, if we're cloning animals, what's the secret? Why wouldn't that technology be out there for everything? But the fact it disappeared, that's like a dead clue to me. Yeah, humans are being cloned.
Well, we all know it disappeared because all these ethical corporations and governments and rogue entities just stopped doing it. When Bill Clinton decided to do the ban, they'd never move to international waters or underground bases anywhere or anything like that, would they? And for me, Michael, you really overly flattered me there at the beginning introduction to your show. Thank you. The one thing I'll pat myself on the shoulder for is I don't mind being out there and telling people you got reptilian ETs and these ETs good and bad, and they're here now, and we got to watch out. And those planes spraying that crap in the sky, you probably don't want to breathe that. I have no problem telling people that. Like, guy I love, like I have no problem. And I don't think everyone's an NPC. I just think we all make our own decisions and we all get to decide what timeline and what world we want to be in. And this is kind of getting back to something you mentioned earlier, Michael. Do people, when you change a timeline, do they just disappear? Well, I don't think so necessarily. And my argument for that would be the Mandela effect. And I mentioned this recently on another show. How as an community it might have been Jessica's, how as an organizer, I cried and taught classes about and read books about and watched movies about and taught those classes and showed those movies and books to people about how Nelson Mandela, leader of the anti-apartheid struggle, head of the ANC in his generation, got locked up on a Robben Island prison in solitary for 26 years, and after mistreatment died. And I cried about that. And then sometime around 2011-ish, I remember turning on the TV and seeing a commercial like a Matt Damon, Morgan Freeman movie where Morgan Freeman is playing Nelson Mandela, who got out of Robben Island prison, became the president of South Africa, and then inspired the national rugby team to win a tournament somewhere. It's like, what is this? And so I don't think like I didn't, I felt like they changed the timeline, but I didn't disappear. I woke up in a different timeline with things like that, the blink of an eye, different. And I think that's how Source works. I think that's how malleable our reality is.
I agree. And one of the comments I've been holding, because I think they're right, but I think they're also wrong in that. So it's Iron Bear's comment. I think it was the War of 1812 where things went bad. I think that's true for a certain point, but I think it's been going on long before that. And so that's why I say, yeah, 1812 isn't the start. It's just one of those moments where, yeah, attention was brought to something and people like, okay, yeah, things took a turn here.
Yeah,
But
I want to comment on that. I want to, if I may, because let's put this in a historical perspective for everyone, right? War of 1812. So Napoleon, before that, has rampaged across Europe. He's upset the monarchies. He declared himself emperor. He put the crown on his own head, so he told the church basically to F off as well as the ruling nobility. And then 1806, and like he's exiled to Elbe in the Battle of Waterloo, and he tries to make a comeback. That failed. And then 1812 is what? Is that like Europe, like partly in the process of reforming itself? And so I would say that's a key nexus point. And I believe per Arkheim that Napoleon may have been involved in one way or another with the Montauk Project, time traveling shenanigans. Kind of like how we ever see the movie Time Bandits?
I
That puts
have.
another spin on that movie. Okay. And so I would consider 1812 to be a nexus point because other people, such as I'll give a props to John Whitberg, they've testified to, in particular, the German breakaway civilization using time travel to go way back in time and to colonize to the point where their civilization can be as large as 1 trillion people out there all over the place amongst the stars. And so that goes way back behind 1812. So I would say 1812 is a good nexus point for recent history even, but not so much in the intergalactic scale of things.
Right. And we're approaching the hour, so I don't know if you have time to go a little bit longer or
I can go as long as you and your audience would like, Michael. My wife was very accommodating, and my friends taking care of her dog. So as long as you like to go, sir.
Okay, well thank you. And I do want to take a moment and say I am grateful to your wife for letting you come on tonight because in full transparency, I had a show yesterday and I was trying to get Brian on it and he was like, the missus wouldn't like it, so we can't. Can we do it tomorrow? And so I was like, yes, we'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah, Valentine's Day or evening rather for around dinner time. Oh, I don't want an angry panda bear. That's why you'll see panda bear imagery. I'm Brian the solar bee, and she's Liz the purple panda. And so this is my logo symbol, if you will, and then this is hers. She likes
Aww.
pretzels as well. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you like to discuss things like the current state of the full disclosure now movement, that's something that's always near and dear to my heart. Or any other paranormal topics the audience would like, I'm totally game. Let's go for like another 20 minutes.
All right. And I'm going to leave aside the chat room for a second because, yeah, they're talking about Mandela effects and great things. But I want to give you time to talk about, and I'm looking at our text messages so I make sure I get the titles right. And your full disclosure now movement, the timeline of disclosure conference coming up, and the 2023 Montauk Adventure Tours.
Yeah. So we got to touch a bit on the Montauk Adventure Tour because what we did is we had about 20 people there, and of them a significant portion were survivors, and we would do things like we're there August 15th was my birthday. August 12th, that was kind of the big day when we expected, if it was going to appear, the USS Eldridge in the time rip just north of that Montauk Point area, north of Camp Hero. And Bob Estes and Gary Fretz chartered a boat as supporters and volunteers and took a crew out to the water. And they saw some interesting foggy stuff, and some of the extra sensitive people, they saw some stuff involving the Eldridge and the sailors. And then Nigel's people, apparently they were monitoring it. They were confirming some of this stuff. And then we had a team there at Camp Hero doing energy work, healing and praying and meditating and memorializing the victims at the ley line there. There's a roundabout at these barracks where some of these people, they remember being there. James, yeah, he filmed his own testimony, but he remembers on the spot being in those barracks as a child with other kids, and they would pick on him because apparently there at the Montauk Project, James was one of the more gifted people. Apparently it's quite the starseed lineage, and the kids were picking on him. They literally threw him out the window of the second story, okay, of the barracks, and he would have fallen onto like the concrete sidewalk and steps up into the first floor of the barracks, and he like remembers like stopping, levitating off the ground before he hit it, because he would have really, that would not have been good for him to hit, and then turning invisible. And he remembers hearing the little kids, the other kids who threw him out the window, like looking out the window, looking down, like, damn, I didn't know Space Boy can do that. Like he disappeared, you know, and so it's testimony like that James was giving, and other people when we went to the lighthouse at Montauk Point. Some of them were literally remembering being told to run off the cliff, and they were doing flying lessons. Okay, and they were like Peter Pan, like flying off the bluff and then coming back, and that's a far steep drop. Like I looked at that was like look like 40, 50, 60 feet. And so, and I heard sometimes kids would fly out, jump off and fall. Maybe they recovered them, and regenerated them or something. And they apparently did use regeneration technology, not using med beds, but regen tanks is what they always say regen tanks. Okay.
Kind of like the
and
back to tanks of Star Wars.
Probably, yeah, but except I think in that water, they might not have needed a mask. Like you just breathe the water, and that's partly why they did the drowning exercises, just to get you acclimated to being in a tank of breathable liquid and sucking it in your lungs, just like in the movie The Abyss. That technology is real, except these are part of regen tanks. And then I remember Arkheim and another person, they had a memory of being kids together, being like in dog cages, basically getting hosed down with water. And the bad guys, the MK Ultra torturers who were programming them using these evil, horrible techniques, would like shock the cages with cattle prods. And these are metal cages. So where are you going to go? If you're naked in a metal cage, that's too bad. Okay. Yeah. And so that was a Montauk Adventure Tour. And we used that. And we did a lot of podcasts and shows to kind of bring attention to the world of like, hey, there are these survivors, and people need to know about this. And like tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of people got disappeared into this, and they apparently for a while had the Montauk Project. They were using a time bubble technology. And so they were able to run for years and years and years in their time. But from the outside, it was not that long. And so off of that, I'm trying to use these dumpster fires of social media. If I can, present my screen here.
Sure.
Screen one. And you can find me online if you like. Please send me a message. Sometimes Facebook doesn't let you, but if you can, send me a message. I'm wearing the Willy Wonka hat here on my profile picture, and try to come up with like how you might like to participate in the Full Disclosure Now movement, even if that's sending links. I mean, sharing links and spreading the good word out to conferences or our shows, or attending our conferences. Or you're a eccentric millionaire or billionaire and you like to support the cause, because boy, there's a lot of starseeds and victims or survivors of these programs who they're not in good health. They don't have good paying jobs. They were promised, while some of them were on these 20 and back kidnapping programs while they were serving what they thought was their country. They were promised they would get paid big time, and they've been paid nada. And it's not pretty. Okay. Like they could use some love out there. And so there's my personal Brian Tseng, just like it's spelled here on the screen, profile. And then I've started this full disclosure now. I've got a group page, and then like leading to this timeline of disclosure conference. So I'm using just my own group page to, like, if people have testimonies out there, what I say to people, what we say rather, is if you think you're a part of these programs and you're trying to piece it together, or you want to share your testimony with the world, one way to be effective is to first write out your chronology. Like, I was born in 1975 here, and then I went to grade school here, and the white van started to take me away around this time. And I remember being on Mars around this time. And you're going to have a lot of gaps, but just start that as a tool for yourself. And then try to write a summary of that just in plain English, people, because there's a lot of people out there. They've got so much information. They've got such traumatic experiences. I get that, but it's like they just kind of want to word vomit it on me the first time. Like they're getting, we get the pleasure of chatting, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, or they're texting stuff to me incoherently. Try to write it out for yourself. And just so for any other reasonable adult could understand your testimony in plain English, accompanied with your timeline chronology. And then the last part of that, what we ask is, given your testimony and your chronology, what are your demands? I mean, if I was kidnapped for 20 years and back, and then maybe kidnapped for another 20 years and back by a different group with another program, Penny Bradley testifies to this. Okay. And I got paid nothing. Like, I'd want me and all the other super soldiers and time soldiers to get back what's ours. I'd want all the negative effects of all the bad shenanigans that they did in time and space, going and messing with people in ancient cultures and stealing their gold, or displacing the native peoples using these technologies. All that should be returned. And then we should get healing centers, and then from there, healing technologies. And also up front and center would be worldwide televised tribunals for justice. And I asked Arkheim about this because we've had a lot of discussions about this. And he said he's seen future timelines where, not many, but he's seen at least 7 future positive timelines where there were tribunals and there was like a memorial rose garden. And like the first healing center is like in Canada on a First Nations land, like Alberta Shoals, Canada, or something like that. Basically, with these demands, being put forth by pages like, Full Disclosure Now, I'm also helping to publicize a conference that I'm taking part of. I'll be partially hosting and emceeing there. And, I'm helping to rally the troops for it. It's a Timeline of Disclosure Conference, St. Pete Beach, Florida. And the lineup is, I'm gonna let everyone know, I'm proud of this lineup. It's amazing. And I said to James and the others early on, if we can get these headliners to present, oh my gosh, we're in business. Like it's always like, feel, if you build it, they will come. If you have the right people, they will come. So, we got James Rink of supersoldiertalk.com, Courtney Brown, you're familiar with the Farsight Institute, Michael?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen her talk a little bit.
Yeah. No, him, this guy, Courtney Brown.
Or him.
He's Dr. Courtney Brown. They're Farsight Institute. They're like some of the I'd say they're on the forefront, together with Jessica Jones, Cryptid Hunters, of civilian remote viewing out there today. And they're using the CIA military techniques, but for good purposes, thankfully. We mentioned Tony Rodriguez earlier in our program.
I just wanted to say I said she because I was looking at Carrie Cassidy and Laura Eisenhower's pictures, and my mind went, yeah, I've seen her.
Yeah, Carrie Cassidy, Project Camelot, Laura Eisenhower, granddaughter of President Eisenhower, and she's an experiencer, and she wants to right a lot of the damage that's been done to her grandfather's legacy, and maybe whatever errors he may have committed. Who's perfect, and then he was surrounded in the swamp, and he's lucky he didn't get himself assassinated. So, I'm not
Right.
pointing the blame, pointing any figures. Drago Reed, he's an experiencer, and he does a lot of great work, also healing through quantum hypnosis, healing technique, other experiencers. We mentioned Penny Bradley already. John Warner, he's got, I guess, a lot of connections in researching this stuff for a long time. Chris O'Connor, he's an experiencer, and he is actually using through his Deems company. He's bringing ET technology, crystals and magnets to help heal people. Jody and Will Fritz, I'm not sure if it's Solar Warden or Nachtwaffen, Dark Fleet, at least that Will's been part of. Arkheim Ra, a good friend of mine, and also on the Montauk tour, we talked about him. Oksana, I'm not as familiar with her, but I hear she's doing great work in the community, doing healing again with, why is healing so important? Because we haven't even touched on the subject of what these kids went through. And, now that a lot of these people are growing up and they're able to do this work and overcome things like Omega programming, suicide programming, that was literally imprinted into them, kind of like, think of the Clockwork Orange, and if our viewers remember that movie, and being strapped down to a chair, tortured, electroprodded, given massive amounts of psychotropic drugs while having images and sound blasted at you nonstop, hot, cold, molest. It's just, that's why, okay? And it's no surprise. And so, not only did these people survive, they survived and now they're healing and they've got the strength to tell the tale. My hat's off to them. Okay. Top hats off. Daryl James, he's got an amazing testimony. Linda Paris, she's been reporting on a lot of this stuff and is a real patriot for the Truther Network out there. Sean Bond, he's an experiencer. He's also very gifted psychic. He's doing a lot of great work with the Psionic League to help teach people their innate psionic abilities, how to shield against attacks, which is so important to targeted individuals. As our friend Carr will testify to. I'm not as familiar with Raw Cloud, but I might have seen one of his interviews, and he's got a lot of amazing energy. I know that. Tyler and Aaron with Journey to Truth, and again, they're the program that kind of really helped wake me up to a lot of this stuff. Like, I was awake after 9/11, around 2004, 2005. It took me a couple years to get out of the shell shock and catch on. That was one waking. And then around 2017, 19-ish, in between there was my waking up phase, and then discovering these guys. Our good friend Jessica, the cryptid huntress, again, the remote viewing that she and the others are doing, blind scientific remote viewing to validate these really out of this world or inner world testimonies, literally, that is priceless. Matthew Mornian with Remember Your Mission. He may have some involvement in a lot of this stuff, and I don't want to go into his testimony too much, but he's also very powerful and gifted on a psychic level and an intuitive level. And through Remember Your Mission, he's helping people unlock things like remote viewing skills as well. And he's the one who told me, I did a consult with him worth every cent. That and because I was complaining and griping. Okay, this is now we're going to get really personal, Michael. We got more time for this if you got time. One of my complaints is how come I don't get to astral project and, remote view and have telepathy and, fly around on UFOs to the portals of Jupiter and into the sun or wherever, you know? Thankfully, on the flip side is I didn't get to go through a lot of the negative stuff a lot of these folks also experienced too. Okay. And Matthew said that he himself didn't get control of a lot of his own psychic abilities, like I guess remote viewing or astral projection, until he started doing Tai Chi and really using, breathing and energy techniques. And, you know, I'd love to use your show here as a platform to just gripe about hearing how in Western society no one ever taught us how to breathe. I remember getting thrown into the swimming pool and swimming lessons, and all the kids are swimming around. No one taught me how to breathe while I'm trying to dog paddle and hold my breath underwater. And I didn't realize you got to come up and take a big gulp of air. And boy, that would have made a big difference to me if someone taught me that earlier. Right. And in Western
Right.
society, no one teaches how to breathe, visualize, push energy, heal ourselves and heal other people, the ones we love, our pets. And so he's doing that work. And then Zach Fisher, he's the gentleman who behind founding the Day of Being event, which is our sister event for the conference. So when we do there's weekdays, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we're then going to go Saturday and Sunday at a very close by beach there, Indian Shores, for a 2-day event this year. It was only 1 day really last year. This year it's 2-day. So then you get to experience a 4-day space conference and then have 2 days in the sun with amazing people. That's what we're inviting you all down to. And then last but not least, and there's more coming, but we got Dylan Lewis Monroe, and he is the person behind the Deep State Mapping Project. So if you're familiar with, they'll talk about the Great Solar Flash and then the Anunnaki and then the Freemasons and then like the good guys over here, like in the white hats and this and this and that. And these are big, detailed maps. I love that work. I think similar to that, and that's Dylan.
Right.
Yeah.
And one thing I will say is, like you pointed out, being new to, the disclosure movement and starting this platform, one of the things I've been blessed with is meeting people like you and others who help me find people who are, I don't like to use the word credible, but have integrity to be sharing their honest story. And so I'm grateful to be giving platform to them. And like Tyler is coming on next month in March to talk, and I'm looking forward to that. James is coming in March as well. And so I'm grateful that I have friends who I can call friends that will help me in saying, yes, you should talk to this person. Like today, I made a connection with someone. I was like going, again, like with you, going, I'd like to have them on the show, but I don't know that I have enough street cred, quote unquote, yet. And I'm so new that, I get a little shy about it. And I'm like, these people are used to talking to big names. I'm not a big name. And so when I saw you put my name with a question mark, I was like, my heart kind of like started beating like a little bit more and going, oh my gosh, this person hasn't even been on the show yet and is sitting there saying, hey, here's someone you should talk to. And I was like, wow. So it's like, it's kind of validating in a way of, I'm running this series as I was sharing backstage with you, is I'm doing it of my own research, my own story journey, And it's beautiful to see that it's being received as, yes, this person has integrity, is a show series you should go on, and being recommended out. Because
Oh
I
yeah.
don't, because I have people will tell me all the time, oh, your name is in this community over here. They're talking about you. And I'm like, I'm just me sitting behind a screen talking to people. And so it's
That's perfect, Michael.
amazing.
Your story is our collective story. So many people are out there, and you're doing what so many people wish they could do, or they can, and y'all, and want to do, and you're doing it. And I'm another example of that. And I want to speak to the point of vetting, because surprisingly, most of the people who come to me they're legit. Now, even though there's some people who they're legit and they've got issues, they're hard to talk to, they yell at you, they one day they're happy, one day they're sad, and and everything in between. But even they are legit. I've, at least to me, relatively few fakers have approached me. The most of the fakers are more scammers who want to sell me, cryptocurrency or something. But there are very few people who've reached out to me, like they're like, I was there, and I'm like, this person's baloney. Like, no, they're and part of that, part of why, I mean, and I'm not trying to give tips to the scammers out there, okay? But and James he'll be the first to admit to this. The term super soldier, it's kind of controversial in that to become a super soldier, what these now adults, but what they had to go through as children, there's nothing was super about that. No one wants to brag about half a, a, a thimbleful of what they went through. What they show in that TV show Stranger Things, which originally was supposed to be called Montauk Project, they were told to change it, the Duffer Brothers. Okay. Like the way they treat Seven in that show is nice. Imagine Graham, Papa, molesting Seven, having her molest the other children, and vice versa, and then throwing her into the upside down. Okay, now you're getting closer to what they did to those kids, and even then. Um, and what's wonderful about what you're doing, Michael, is not only are you giving a platform to, I'm a movement person, so I'm here to, like, you give me a platform to spread the good word, dingling, I'm going to ring that bell. Excellent, thank you. But the other part of it is you're not being like and I wanted myself to make sure that when I jumped into this, it was with integrity, and I wasn't going to be like a groupie fanboy. You're like, oh wow, that's so great. You did this and you did this. Like, tell me more, tell me more. Like, no, 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 no. It's like, tell me what you're going to tell me for the record. But now let's take it to the masses and then demand justice. And let's get our Star Trek future now, since we should have had it yesterday. And that's really, what the conference is about. Is it's all about organizing through the conference, building our tribe, our network. And as we find each other, you're going to notice, on your show, I love to name drop all of our other compatriots out there in the community. Just like when I was on Jessica's show before yours, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be on Michael's show, I haven't even gotten to meet him face to face yet, but I'm stoked. Like, another show. Cool. Let's do this. So this is it's an opportunity and an honor, from my side. And, you know, it's like anyone, if they want, like, you can organize conferences, you can do this. And if you've got some extra funds and resources, you can allocate them. And maybe you've got more money than you've got time. You can donate that too. Maybe you've got more time than you've got money. You can donate that too. Maybe you've got both, right? Maybe whatever you've got, uh, a vendor who you think would be great at our conference, send them my way.
Right. And I appreciate that. And the other thing I was going to go with too, and, you know, to second and back up what you were saying, is I have found in my gut when people say, oh, you should talk to this person, I trust my gut, and I will give everyone a platform to speak. And I will, stand behind my guest. And I like to tell people on all my shows that I do, if you're going to tell me the sky is purple, even though I'm looking out the window and going, it's pretty blue to me, but you're saying it's purple, I will defend you saying it's purple and be like, hey, this is their perception. It's purple. I'm not going to go and say, oh, yeah, so and so's right. The sky's blue. What are you talking about? And just start ripping into the guest. No, that's not what I'm about. I'm about getting the information out. Do I agree with everything maybe people are saying? No, but I don't sit there and go, I can't take and say, okay, let's only talk about the parts that resonate with me, because I'm not the only person listening to this show or series. And so that's where I was like, again, saying with you before we got started is I'm doing these shows as, yes, an awakening for me and my involvement, but also in the hopes that someone may be watching the show a week from now going, hey, maybe I was there. There was this show about that. Let me go back and re listen to that. And some little seed of wisdom will grow and sprout. And so that's where my goal is to give everyone a chance to, because I don't know what's going to trigger someone's memory or an experience, or even just like you were saying, an awakening to say, hey, you guys shouldn't have had to go through this. I didn't go through it, but I want to step up and help and support you guys and help get this information out. And
They
so,
paid the price. If they paid such a heavy price, to not get it out would be a travesty.
yeah, and I had to say though as well, I've noticed the program community versus like paranormal community and other communities that I've been with, and this is my perspective. Don't say, this is just my viewpoint, and I'm not saying it's for everyone. But there is more family togetherness, and it is more like a family. There is bickering, there is, the friendship and
What
everything.
bickering?
But, it's like, yeah, and to each their own. And it's like we respect each other. Whereas in other communities, if somebody says something and you're like, oh, I can't get behind that, next thing you know, you're like blacklisted for something. And you're like, I didn't even do it.
So I'd like to address that because that's a great topic there. I'd have to say it's not all joy and sunshine in SSP experiencer and organizer land, not by a long shot. But having said that, despite what rifts do form from time to time and are there, there's so much love in the community. And whether we or not we agree if the earth is flat or round, like we all want change and wouldn't mind beds and free energy technology and a government and media that didn't lie to us. And like, like all those things, like we can all agree on. So I think that there's a lot of that, and a lot of the people who survived what they survived, um, they've got a lot of strength of character from that trial by fire, and with such a great price that they paid, now is a time to reap some rewards. Might as well. They paid the price. Man, was it a price.
Right. And the other thing, too, that I will say from my personal experience is thinking that, having stories and memories that kind of resonated similar to other people who were are out there saying, yes, I was in the programs, it was comforting to me when I would start talking to some of the people in the community and saying, I had this memory, I had this, I don't remember all of this, but the timelines and everything are starting to feel like this. And the community didn't go, oh, you're just, trying to fit in. No, they were like, hey, you should go talk to this person. Maybe they can help you get your memory. And you should talk to this person. They're really good at helping with it. And it was like, you were welcomed in, whether you knew you were part of it or not. And to me, that speaks volumes of how, like I say, it's a family because there's no judgments, so to speak. I mean, everyone has their own personal and they'll help you so far, but
we're all truth seekers.
yes.
We all, and it's like helping each other to find the truth, and we're all uncovering the puzzle together. That is, that's a privilege right now, because in the past, the not so recent past, a lot of us truthers, or whatever you want to call us, would have been silenced and disappeared, and otherwise targeted, attacked, neutralized, put behind bars or whatnot. And so it's kind of like, now that the floodgates are finally opening, gosh, who would anyone be to hold you back and say, oh no, Michael, you're not big enough league to be, running with, like, I mean, shit, if anyone told me that, little fish that I am, no, I wouldn't take that, because with the internet these days, and our ability to use our mouths and their keyboards, we can organize anyone and anything, and we've got the right cause. What is more important than waking up humanity to the reality? It's like, if the TV show V was real, like, do you want to know that those are, nasty, bad reptilians wearing masks eating us, or not? Right?
Right. And
Yeah.
right. And I will say the one thing that also was great that I was, told by a couple of people was, is because you hear like James and Arkheim and all the others saying, yes, I was here. I have memories of this, this, and this. Well, we forget this was a process. And we assume, oh, we're going to have the memories right away. And so I was feeling like, oh my God, I don't have memories, but I feel I was there, but I don't have. And a couple of people go, your memories will come. It may be a few weeks, it may be months, but they will come when it's done. And I was like, oh, that is so great to hear, because I'm sitting here thinking in my head, going, why aren't the memories here if I've been told this and this and this?
It's what you are. Okay, you're not alone, Michael. I know multiple people where they've got other people who are also in the programs telling them, oh yeah, I remember seeing you on this starship and you served this many years, and yeah, we kind of treated you like garbage, and haha, you can't remember anything in the here and now. Well, I can. Okay. Or some people have memories of being, like, in, say, the Montauk, but they don't remember being in space. But then there are other people who remember them being in space too. And, I mean, for me, it's like, I can have a really vivid dream and then not even remember it, and it's gone, or I could know, So it's like, for me, the idea of forgetting things, that's not beyond the pale. I could believe that things could be wiped and erased and buried, or screen memoried and covered up. And then, in terms of, hey, Josh, the more you enjoy your memories, right, the more you do, right. And that's like where, like, the higher self will then allow you to let memories come through. And then if you do tools like trying to draw it, like, it's like dream journaling, doing the chronology and the summary and writing out to the best you can, that may help you recover memories. And then, it's a touchy subject because sometimes apparently people have memories that they don't want to remember, or even if you waking moments speaking to me say, hey Brian, I wish I could remember X, Y, and Z. For all you know, you got a higher self part of you that says, you know what, now's not the right time to share that, for these to come back. Who knows? Right. And so my advice suggestion would be to be patient, but then also if you do feel impatient, you've got all these QHHT practitioners in particular. And then I remember I would recommend folks like Drago read. The one thing is Drago, he does all of his in person. So you might be taking a trip to see Drago, but I'd say he'd be worth it.
Right, and I appreciate that. And yeah, and it's comforting to know it's not supposed to all unlock at front. And so it's like, okay, so yeah, maybe, if I did break it, I didn't break that. And so, yeah, so there's comfort to that. And I want to thank you for coming on and sharing everything, with us and with me, and being patient with me and some of my questions, because I'm
Oh, they're
sure.
great. You have great questions. I love it. And then you give me the mic to run with. I appreciate that. No, I would do this again anytime.
Well, I will take you up on that, and I will be in touch. I say we. I'm the only one doing it. I don't know why I keep saying
The
we.
royal we. The royal we.
But yes, and thank you for agreeing to come on such short notice. I know asking a day of or day before is asking a lot, but thank you for having the patience with me. And
It's my pleasure. And what I would say to all your viewers out there is please put it in the comments. Not only if you like me back, hopefully, but what you would like me to discuss with Michael. If you have any suggestions, if it's whether it's like the haunted cowboy saloon brothel up north that's abandoned and we have to rehabilitate into an RV park, or if it's other paranormal experiences, we got at least one of those, or if it's anything else like how to organize and organizing the movement. I've got a series on that. So I love to share all of this. And so, thanks for being here, Joshua and Garrel and Iron Bear and Natalie and everyone else. It's been awesome.
yes, and I have to say, with all of my shows, tonight was one of the most active chat rooms. And so I was like, wow, that was really cool to see so many people chiming in.
I mean, yeah, we got some audience participation. We got a very vibrant community. I'm more than happy with it, and so let's keep building it, and let me know what you guys would like to discuss next, and whenever you've got the next slot open for me, Michael. Yeah, that would be a pleasure.
Well, thank you. And I'm going to allow you to get back to your family and your, I believe someone put it as your mama bear.
Your panda bear. She's my panda bear. I'm her bee. I'm the solar bee, and she's my panda. The pandas and the bees.
So thank you for a wonderful episode. Thank you to the chat room. And we are going to call it a night, because I know Brian's been on several shows, and I know from my experience that is a bit taxing energy wise. So
It's great. I've got my horchata here. I'm running high on sugar. So until then, and thank you, Michael.
thank you. So everyone, stay tuned next week, as we will be back, and we will have Julia coming on. And so I'm looking forward to that. So to all of you out there, thank you. keep seeking the truth, follow your heart, and let the joy out. Have a great night, everyone.